And by the way, this morning we are still without the services, the Carolina Hurricanes and Alexander Nikishin. They have not agreed to anything whatsoever. What was agreed to this morning, and again, the word importance comes up, Indianapolis Colts, Jonathan Taylor, 2-year, $44 million extension. Lots of guaranteed money. We don't have to get too deep into that. This comes a day after Bijan Robinson of the Atlanta Falcons, a NFC South running back, signed a 3-year deal worth $75 million. And this also, as the running back market gets a little bit tweaked here in the NFL, makes that Chuba Hubbard deal really, really palatable. Detroit Lions, Jahmyr Gibbs, has been a hold-in. He wants a new deal as well. In order of importance, assuming Jahmyr Gibbs gets signed to a deal, 2 years, maybe 3 years, and will probably make somewhere in that range, $45 to $75 million, 2 years, 3 years. Who's the most important of those three to keep their team going? If you had to put it on your back as the general manager, see-all, do-alls of the NFL, Jonathan Taylor to the Colts, Bijan Robinson to Atlanta, or Gibbs to Detroit, who is the key? Like, who is the most important of those three when it comes to making sure those offenses go and getting moving? Now, for my money, it's probably Jahmyr Gibbs. Without him in Detroit, it's kind of Jared Goff and receiving core. There's very little to go on. In Atlanta, Robinson, who's definitely a superstar, there's that same kind of mold there, but they have drafted pretty well in other positions. And he might not be the most important person there because they really don't have a quarterback either. And Indianapolis, dealing with Jonathan Taylor, they made some trades in the offseason where they are thinking that Josh Downs, you all know Josh Downs around here, Josh Downs might be one of their more important receiving pieces in Indianapolis. But if you're talking about a team that's going to contend and push forward, probably Gibbs in Detroit. That's just my money. All right, NHL. We're in the quiet period. This is a very quiet period. Next month we do play hockey. I promise no more countdowns, so I won't do that, but next month we will play hockey. And we're in that little sweet spot right now where everybody can evaluate where teams are headed going into the new season. The Athletic put out an article today talking about expectations of teams, who would be most likely to win a cup in the upcoming year, who would be least likely to win a cup in the upcoming year. Atop the list, top three for the teams that will win a cup in 2027, Colorado Avalanche, Florida Panthers, Carolina Hurricanes, 1, 2, and 3. Number 4 amongst fans, Minnesota. Feels pretty chalky, right? When it comes to those 4 teams, fairly chalky. In the offseason among those teams, also among the teams that would not win the cup, at least according to fans, Vancouver. That hurts my heart. Number 2 on that list is Toronto, which is interesting, and I'll explain why. And then third on that list, another Canadian team, Calgary. Doesn't really matter, right? Of those teams that I listed, in terms of off-season grades that were granted to them, and SportsNet Canada does a lot of grading in the off-season. Ryan Dixon did the, and Emmy Sadler did them too. Ryan Dixon did the Atlantic Division, and those teams that I mentioned, the Florida Panthers, they got an A grade. An A grade for their off-season moves. Why so much? A lot of it was kind of right off the top of Brady Tkachuk. That seemed to be their big deal. But also part of that was the kind of exiting of Sergei Bobrovsky in trying to upgrade their goaltending. Was Jacob Markstrom that true upgrade, though, that they really needed in Florida to give them an A grade?
No.
That's simple. That is a very solid top 9 forward group. They did bring back my favorite troll, Radko Gudas. That's not a game changer. They added Akira Schmidt, a guy who's been around for quite a while. Also among those teams in the Atlantic that were given A grades, the Toronto Maple Leafs. What happened in Toronto in the offseason that changed things? Well, they got a new general manager, that's for sure. They win the draft lottery, right? I mean, that's... Do you win the draft lottery, or did you just kind of roll into that one? Right? But you get Gavin McKenna. You get Sergei Bobrovsky, who comes in and now is your replacement to Joey Woll.
Nice, pretty hefty price tag for a guy that had like an 860 save percentage this past season and is 38 years old.
Well, Anthony Stolarz is the other one. Is Bob ready to go tandem? Like, can he handle tandem?
I don't think the idea is for him if we're giving him $7 million a year over 3 years. I think the idea is
he's going to go.
He's supposed to be the starter.
That's 65 games.
I could very easily see that not working out very well for them, especially when you go from. And granted, Florida was dealing with a lot of injuries this year, but even so, like when you go from a D-core with Gustav Forsling, Aaron Ekblad, Seth Jones. You're going to a team where you've got, Morgan Riley, and they got Darren Radish this offseason, but he's not exactly like one of the top defensive defensemen in the league. I don't know.
But he was kind of one of the guys, like kind of one of the best names available.
Yeah, but he's a great power play quarterback, and he's got a booming shot. But that's
everybody needs those guys.
I would be surprised if Bobrovsky's posting a 900+ save percentage this year.
Yeah, they got Jack
in year one of a 3-year deal where he's making, I think, in terms of the goaltending landscape, probably top 10 money per year in terms of the AAV. Yeah. So maybe a little bias from the SportsNet folks. Like, oh, they shook it up. They made a lot of moves. Doesn't necessarily mean it was good.
Well, I couch that a little bit by saying fans don't believe they're going to do anything with it anyway. With one of the more kind of upside down, shake the snow globe off seasons for Toronto. Same kind of deal for many of these other teams. Like Nashville did quite a bit of business in the off season. Brought in some guys that Chris McFarland, the new general manager that's there in Nashville, did a few things. I'm not saying Nashville's contending for anything. Colorado didn't really do a lot except kind of sent a bunch of dudes away to give themselves cap flexibility because they have a bigger fish to fry next year in terms of making sure that they lock down one of the best defensemen in the league. Chicago was interesting. Chicago's one of those interesting things where they extend Connor Bedard for good money, but then it feels like they've overpaid for the return of Patrick Kane and overpaid for Bowen Byram.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Overpaid in the trade for Bowen Byram and then overpaid on the contract extension for Bowen Byram to give him $12.5 million a year. I think that doesn't even kick in until next year too.
Correct.
So I guess the silver lining there, and maybe he could end up blossoming into this true number one, like great two-way, good puck-moving defenseman. Like he's a solid puck mover, and you can put him on the power play now, but I wouldn't place him in the top 20 or 30 defensemen in the NHL. So the fact that he signed an extension to make him the highest paid defenseman in the NHL, which will probably get surpassed by the time that contract kicks in, but still, it's an odd move to me. And again, I get bringing Patrick Kane back. You're bringing a skilled veteran player. It increases the floor in terms of the skill for your forward group. You're trying to bring in these NHL bodies. Kind of the same idea with Bowen Byram too. You want to bring some legit NHL talent in there, but you're paying too much money. And you're giving up too many assets in terms of the trade for Bowen Byram. You gave up the 4th overall pick. I think they traded a 2nd as well. And they also brought in Jordan Greenway the other way. His contract is not a bonus for your cap sheet. It's more of a detriment. So look, like they're building up to something and hoping Bedard will become that franchise guy, that true like superstar guy. But they're not setting themselves up to have success and flexibility to build around him. Now, luckily, they have these highly drafted guys they've already picked in like Anton Frondel. I think he's going to be a good player. Frank Nazar, they actually already have signed to a very reasonable extension that he can continue to grow into. So that's one that they did well, but that's previous offseason. So I think a C grade, honestly, maybe a little bit bullish for Chicago this offseason. I probably would have been more like C-, D+, but it could end up working out for them. I mean, they're still, I think, not going to be competing to make the playoffs or anything.
No. Free agency is still open. There's still some wingers available, some centers available. What's left out there right now, and guys that played full seasons, by the way, played full seasons. There were no injuries Marcus Johansson, he didn't make a lot of money last year, unrestricted. 15 goals, 34 assists. Plays center. Lefty, though. Vladimir Tarasenko, still available. Still out there. 23 goals last year. And played roughly 12 minutes. Like, he was playing third, fourth line minutes. And still out there. Still available. You're not getting the elite, but you're getting a goal scorer. And he's the only one that is not a restricted free agent that has that kind of number that's still available. Like, there's still some play out there that, and again, it's not top line stuff by any means. It's third line. But Michael Bunting, his contract that he signed with the Canes has finally expired. He's gone to 4 different cities since he signed a 3-year contract. He's out there. He's available. He scored 14 goals last year.
You know who's a free agent still available that I think is kind of interesting is Ilya Tolvanen, the Finnish winger. Most recently is with Seattle.
Yeah.
At times he's really flashed like some pretty solid goal scoring ability. Not this past season, but the year before. He had 23 goals for them. I think he's kind of undersized guy somewhat, but look, I mean, we were talking
5'10".
about when you're talking about Carolina and you're talking about undersized players and Finnish players, like
love those guys.
That's a match that in theory, could make sense, and probably a guy that they could add to the depth that wouldn't cost that much. So, look, if that was something that ended up transpiring down the line sometime during this offseason, I wouldn't be particularly surprised because, he brings a lot of things. Now, granted, it's almost kind of a similar profile to what you're hoping Bradley Nadeau will bring in, like, undersized winger, like, really good goal-scoring ability, and the idea is that you can become this kind of elite goal scorer. Tolvanen never became elite or anything like that, but again, he's flashed that ability at times over the course of his career. So if they end up going into free agency to get somebody, that's a guy to look at, and I think that's a guy that will land somewhere around the league by the time the actual season rolls around.
Perhaps that'll pull Carolina off its C grade in the offseason.
I'm Max Goren with 3 things you need to know right now from 99.9 The Fan. It's Hall of Fame game day. The Carolina Panthers will kick off the NFL preseason against the Arizona Cardinals tonight at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. Coverage of tonight's game will be found on our family station, Mix 101.5, with pregame starting at 7 ahead of an 8 o'clock kickoff. New this morning out of Chapel Hill, UNC football head coach Bill Belichick has announced that his son, UNC defensive coordinator Steve Belichick, is out indefinitely on medical leave. It is unclear whether he will return for the Tar Heels season opener against TCU on August 29th. The Durham Bulls split their doubleheader with the Charlotte Knights last night and will continue the series in the Queen City tonight. Bulls coverage is available on 620 AM Buzz Sports Radio, 99.9 FM HD2, and WRAL News Plus, with first pitch scheduled for 7:04 p.m. For all the latest news on your favorite teams, download the 99.9 The Fan app or visit 999thefan.com.
Clemson's been given the gift of reputation. The coaches' poll came out on Tuesday afternoon, and outside of the fact that I contend that if you're a national champion, you should always be going into the next season as number 1, regardless of what happens, and Ohio State was rated first, and again, Ohio State, good team. We were aware of what they've got, some preseason. I mean, the quarterback isn't even the most kind of notable player on the team. They've got many others. Indiana's voted 6th. They still have 14 first-place votes. That's, second, really, when it comes to first-place votes. In this coach's top 25, Clemson Tigers were 23rd. 23rd on this list at 7-6, in which they sent pretty much all their starters to the NFL. Better than Houston, better than Missouri, lesser than Utah, lesser than Iowa. 23rd on that list. 7-6 last year. They did not blow the doors off of anything. Yahoo Sports put out their preseason college football poll. Clemson, with a 2025 record of 7-6, finds themselves just behind Utah, but ahead of Louisville, ahead of Houston, ahead of Tennessee, and ahead of Washington. They are 20th. The backup quarterback Chris Vizina was Cade Klubnik's backup last year, was named week 1 starter. And there's another true freshman as well who's pushing him. They still have a couple of cats. There's no doubt about it. And they do have LSU in week 1, and they do have Miami in week 5. Clemson's not going to run away with anything, but that ranking is going to get tested really quickly. And I remember back in the day when it was Miami, and this is why Miami's return to the glory here in the 2020s has been such a thing. Because back in the day when the national championship was usually just kind of 1 or 2 teams, maybe 3 or 4 were in that conversation, Miami was always given this gift. That gift of reputation that allowed them to continue to compete at that high level, be talked about, their names were in our mouths, and then it went away. And now they've rebuilt it through Mario Cristobal, and again, I begrudgingly respect Mario Cristobal, even though he left my Oregon Ducks at the altar in Las Vegas during a freaking bowl game. Actually, a Pac-12 championship, and I was at that game, which, we were so bad. The Ducks were so bad in that game in Vegas. But the players knew what was going on, and then everyone transferred, and it was kind of over. But they have rebuilt that school. And again, they've had to go through quite a few coaches to get there, but they finally have their guy, and they finally have their support. The same thing is happening at Clemson right now. They are grabbing reputational currency because of what they've done in the past or what they supposedly had done in the past. This will be the year where that currency runs out. They are at their last credits in the arcade game. They've put all their quarters in, and they're pretty much on their last reboots if you play Fortnite, or in your last lives if it comes to those of you who play Ms. Pac-Man. There's not a lot of fruit left on that tree for the Clemson Tigers. And so they're living on that reputation. They will continue to do so. And you have to wonder yourselves, and if you're local fans of State, Duke, maybe not so much Carolina these days when it comes to football, how you can earn that gift of reputation. Something for you to ponder today.